Hi everybody, welcome to Nana's Southern Kitchen, where we like to teach you how to cook our family favorite recipes the quick, easy way. Hope you'll join along with us. Today we're going to be making Southern restaurant style meatloaf. We're going to begin with me showing you how to make the Southern seasoning. For this recipe, we're going to use 1 tablespoon Cavender's Greek seasoning. If you're not familiar, that's what you're going to need. 1 teaspoon ground mustard, a teaspoon garlic powder. You can also use granulated garlic, a teaspoon smoked paprika, a teaspoon Cajun seasoning mix. Doesn't matter the brand. You could use like Texas two-step, Slap Your Mama, Tony Chachere's, whichever is your favorite. We got a teaspoon of onion powder, a teaspoon of celery salt, not seeds. That'll be way too strong. A teaspoon of seasoning salt. There again, brand doesn't matter. Most people like Lowry's, but I like Badia, found in the Spanish section of the grocery store. A teaspoon of ground black pepper, and a teaspoon of Himalayan sea salt, but you could use plain salt. That's just my preference. Let me grab a fork. And we're just going to mix that together. Now once you get it mixed together, you want to store it in an airtight container. I like to use a mason jar for mine. That way it can be humidity proof in this hot weather we have down here. And that's all there is to it for the seasoning. Now that we have our seasoning all mixed together, let's get our meatloaf going. In this bowl I have 1.5 pounds meatloaf. To it we're going to add 3 eggs that have been mixed together, a third of a cup of oatmeal, a half a teaspoon of garlic powder, half a teaspoon of black pepper, a teaspoon of parsley, and we're going to use a tablespoon of that southern seasoning we just made. However, if you didn't have all the spices to make the southern seasoning, you could use a teaspoon of Italian seasoning and a teaspoon of Montreal steak seasoning. It would taste similar but not the same. Now we're going to add to that a half cup of steak sauce and 2 tablespoons beef base bouillon. If you don't have this, you could use the powder. That would be fine. Now we're going to go in there and mix it up. You don't have to wear gloves. I just prefer to because I'm going to be sharing this with my family. And anytime someone else eats my food, I like to use gloves. Plus, I don't like to feel the hamburger meat on my hands. So don't be afraid. Get all down in there and get it mixed up thoroughly. You don't want any of the red left in big chunks. You want it mashed together really well, combined. Then we're going to put it in a loaf pan. If you don't have a loaf pan, you could put it in a casserole dish by simply picking up your meat, getting it all together, and form it in a rough loaf shape and put it in your casserole dish. It's just easier for the pan. And we're going to smush it all down in there real good. Make it nice and even and flat. And we're going to cook it in a 350-degree oven for approximately 1 hour. Okay, it's been about 50 minutes. Let's see how our meatloaf is doing. Ooh, yes, see that is nice and ready. You want to cook it until the internal temperature is 165 if you're new to cooking, with a digital instant read thermometer. Now for the glaze. We're going to add 2 tablespoons of light brown sugar. Let me grab a spoon. A teaspoon of yellow prepared mustard that comes out of the squeeze bottle. And 1/3 of a cup of ketchup. We're going to mix that all together. Okay, mix it up till it's all one color. And all the lumps of sugar are mixed in and it's smooth. It should look something like that. Now, be very careful when you do this. I've cooked for many years, so I'm not really scared of getting burned, but you need to be careful. We're going to drain the grease out of the meatloaf. If you use lean meatloaf, you may not have very much grease. If you use the 70-30, you may have a bit more. Okay. Now, we're going to add the glaze we just mixed up to the top of our meatloaf. Be sure to spread it all around. You want that top nice and covered so it doesn't dry out. That's what keeps the moisture in your meatloaf. And we're going to take the meatloaf, put it back in a 350-degree oven for 5 to 7 minutes. Could be a little less, a little longer, depending on how your oven cooks. Okay, it has been about 6 minutes. Meatloaf is ready. Just wanted that glaze to set. See how pretty and delicious? That's all there is to it, folks. Hope you enjoy this recipe and like and follow my channel.